Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Hello. Right, 886 people here. Welcome. Good afternoon and welcome to the third day of National Graduate Week, brought to you by CareerMap. My name is Heather Reynolds. I'm the Account Director at CareerMap and Head of National Graduate Week. Today, for this session, we're going to be joined by Olivia Saddleton and Charlotte Mullen from NFU Mutual. This session is going to be recorded and will be available on demand on the National Graduate Week website in about a week or so. But if there's anything that you want to screenshot now and save, please do so. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, publicly or privately. It is a busy session. There's over 800 people. And so sometimes the chat can, you can have a bit of a trouble getting something through immediately. So if you're having any problems posting anything, just pop it through to our email address, which is info@careermap.co.uk. Sometimes it's just too much of a deluge. What we'll be doing is we'll be collating all of the questions for after the presentation run by Olivia and Charlotte and presenting them to them for them to answer following their session. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to hand over to Olivia and Charlotte. I'll be turning off my microphone and my camera, and I will see you for the Q&A.
Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out to attend our presentation today. So Olivia and I are going to plan to cover off a couple of topics, which we hope will be of interest. So we'll give a bit of a company overview. We'll cover off some scheme-specific info. We'll talk a bit about our application process, and then we'll move into some insight from how we've found things, both on and off scheme. And then we'll wrap up with some hints and tips that we've got for you guys. As it was just said, if you have any questions at any time, please do let us know, and we'll try and cover them off at the end. So then let's pop through to some company info. So NFUM is a UK registered mutual insurance company. So we underwrite more than 1.5 billion in annual premium in both life and general insurance. And we sell our insurance through about 300 different agency offices around the country. So they're ran in a very similar way to franchises, although we've got ever such a slightly different setup. So our head office is based in Stratford-upon-Avon. However, we do have different sites across the country, or across the UK indeed. So we employ approximately 4,000 people, and there's a further 3,000 across our agency network. As the company name suggests, we're a mutual company, which essentially means that the people who buy our insurance are also our owners. So instead of making decisions based on shareholder needs, which are driven by profit, we make decisions with our members' best interests in mind. This also means that we can do more for our communities. So NFUM's mission is to champion rural causes, safeguard our countryside, and give back to the public. Just to be clear, though, we don't just insure farmers. We have a really diverse portfolio from private individuals to large corporate businesses, many of them which you will have heard of. We also have a significant property portfolio. We own tons of property, loads of it everywhere, and a really strong investment team who ensure we stay as financially secure as we can be. So NFUM's strategy is to deliver an attentive, local, personal service that's second to none. Our three main strategic pillars are to do with sustainable, profitable growth, to be a great company to do business with, and also to be a great place to work. The great place to work pillar is driven through our company culture, and it's felt by all employees. So every year we're asked to complete an engagement survey, which is run by a company called Gallup. We're asked to cover 12 questions, which ask us things about our life at work and also our engagement in the workplace. This year, and actually for the fourth year running, we've achieved something called world-class status for employee engagement. So one of the highest scores possible, and we're only one of 5 companies globally to do this across the world. So we are an exceptionally engaged company, and it's a really great company to work for. This shows just how engaged we all are and how fab it is if you were to come and work for us. So I'll pass over to Olivia now, who then cover off some more scheme-specific stuff, if that's all right, Olivia.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Charlotte. So as you can see on the screen, there are a number of different schemes available within NFU Mutual that you could apply for. So some of these schemes have specific degree requirements. So for example, in the finance scheme, you need to be doing a degree in accountancy or another similar numerical subject. Most schemes will require a 2-2 degree, aside from finance, which does require a 2-1. most of our schemes are based at our head office in Stratford-upon-Avon or at our other Stratford site called Ryan Hill Park. The exceptions are the sales and business management schemes, which are based all around the UK in the Midlands, North West, Scotland, South East and South West. If you have any questions at all about the specific schemes, please feel free to visit our careers website where you can find out more information about each scheme, or feel free to ask us any questions at the end and we'll do our best to answer for you. So, some of you may be thinking that you know nothing about insurance, and that's absolutely fine because neither of us did when we first started here either. So within your first couple of months of joining us, you will spend 3 weeks completing your Level 3 certificate in insurance. This is broken down by 2 weeks learning the content and then a week of 3 multiple choice exams. This qualification provides a grounding in basic general insurance principles, including the regulatory environment, key disciplines of underwriting and claims, in addition to popular products such as motor, household, healthcare and package commercial insurances. It may initially seem daunting to complete a qualification in such a short period of time, but don't worry at all. The course is taught by 2 fantastic trainers who are experts in the area, and plenty of support and revision materials, including textbooks, apps, and multiple choice practice questions are available. If your role relates specifically to insurance, for example, our sales roles, you'll then go on to study your diploma in insurance. But for other schemes less directly related to insurance, such as mine, there are other scheme-specific qualifications you'll study. So when I'm in HR and I'm currently studying for my CIPD Level 5 qualification, and I believe Charlotte in IT also studied for her ITIL expert qualification in the IT scheme, and all the different schemes have different qualifications. So on top of this, there are multiple other training and development opportunities available during the scheme. There are several leadership workshops that you attend throughout the scheme, such as resilience training, coaching skills, effective influencing and presentation skills, all of which will provide you with valuable skills that are transferable in the workplace. You will also complete an insights questionnaire that will create a personal profile for you and help you to understand your strengths and weaknesses and learn your preferred ways of working. So as you can see, there are a huge number of development opportunities available for you on the scheme. So now's the important question of how you apply. Well, stage 1 is simply an application form and the submission of your CV. If you get through this stage, you'll then be invited to a video interview, which will be competency-based questions. During this interview, you have about a minute to prepare, followed by 2 minutes to answer the questions. This may seem daunting, but just try to relax into the questions. We do understand you're nervous and we're not looking for perfect answers at all. We just want to get to know you more as a person. The next stage are then the SHL tests, which will be short tests on your verbal and numerical ability. My advice here is just practice, practice, practice. There are plenty of books and online resources you can use to practice these. So if you pass this stage, you'll then be invited to our assessment centre. This will be a day consisting both of individual and group tasks to allow us to really get to know you, and also for you to get to know us. The process is as much about deciding if you want to work for us as well as deciding for us to decide who to recruit. And the final stage is then an in-person competency-based interview. These will be questions based on our personal star qualities, which you can Google to find out more information. So I'm now just going to give you a bit of a background into my journey on the PT scheme so far. So I started in the HR scheme in September 2020, having graduated from the University of Birmingham with a business management degree. It was an interesting time to join the company as I had to learn the job completely from home in the new virtual world, but I was lucky enough to still receive a really positive induction programme and good quality training. I'm lucky that my scheme's a rotational programme, which means I'm actually on my 4th role already. I started in the HR Service Centre, and that's the team that's essentially the central point of contact for HR. So my job involved helping to manage the HR mailbox, answering all employees' HR-related queries, producing employment contracts, writing employment references, and helping with employee inductions. In January, I then moved over to the reward team, which deals with employees' pay and benefits. I was involved with many work streams in that team, such as the production of the annual gender pay gap report, the delivery of the annual pay review and bonus processes, helping to review the NFU Mutual company car policy, and benchmarking roles against the external market to ensure we are paying employees correctly. In April, I then began a joint placement between the reward team and the engagement team. In the engagement team, I worked alongside the engagement manager and the external company Gallup to deliver the annual 12-question employee engagement survey that we mentioned earlier. I helped to ensure that the report was set up correctly, that it went out on time to the right people, and once the survey was closed, helped to analyse the results with Gallup and identify any trends within the business. In the past 2 weeks, I've since moved over to the employee relations team, which is the team that works with managers across the business to deal with sensitive employee issues such as sickness, absence, performance issues, disciplinaries, grievances, and flexible working requests. And on top of all these roles, there have been other opportunities for me to get involved in other projects and work streams in HR. So a significant project I was involved in over the year was the updating of all our regulatory information on the different HR systems in response to updated regulation from the Financial Conduct Authority. So as you can see, I've learned an awful lot in my first year, and I still have 4 other roles to move into whilst on scheme. So it's been a really, really great opportunity for me to grow as an HR professional. I'll now move over to Charlotte so she can speak a little bit about her career journey so far.
Thanks, Olivia. So I'm significantly older than Olivia, as much as I don't like it. I started our grad scheme in 2012. So I was one of the very first intakes of IT grads. So I graduated Loughborough University with a degree in, information technology management for business. Geez, it's ages ago, basically computer science and business management. But so I graduated in 2012 and came straight to NFU. So as I said, I was one of the first intake of IT grads. Definitely guinea pig at the time, but it's gone from strength to strength since. So similarly to Olivia, my scheme is a rotational scheme and the IT scheme still are. So I spent 3 years on scheme in a variety of roles. I did some project management. I worked for our major incident management team and also spent some time being a vendor manager for one of our biggest suppliers. All super interesting. They were great experiences and gave me a really good foundation for then coming off scheme. So one thing that is really great about NFUM, which Olivia hasn't experienced yet, is we invest so much into our grads when they're here on scheme that we would be stupid to lose you post scheme. So ultimately, we want to try and retain you and get you in a really good job that you both want to do and we think you'd be really good at. So that's one really positive for me about joining NFUM, was I knew there was something at the end. I think quite often grad schemes don't always have that. So for us, it absolutely, if we can, is about retaining you if you're a really good talent. So for me, I've done a number of roles since. I'm in my kind of third one since being off scheme. So my first role is possibly my favourite role ever, which was executive assistant to the CIO. So I worked directly for our IT director, Tim. So I wasn't his PA, his diary and affairs were managed by somebody else. But I ultimately was his right-hand woman for 3 years, which was pretty awesome. So I deputised for him if he couldn't attend meetings, and I also ensured our IT division was just delivering on our strategic aims and goals. I get serious FOMO, so this massively kind of scratched my itch of being in the know about everything that was going on for NFUM. So I did that for 3 years. I was then asked if I wanted to establish NFUM's first innovation team, which again was a really cool opportunity. So I massively have a passion for new shiny tech. I'm one of those weirdos who buys like a new iPhone every time they come out. So again, for me, it was a perfect role. The team investigated opportunities that we have as a company with things like virtual reality and drones and smart home tech and all sorts of stuff, which was great. I then went on mat leave for 10 months. So again, I can attest we're a very lovely company if you go and have a child or do whatever you want to do. And then when I came back, I then spent a bit of time back with the innovation team, and then subsequently have now moved on to be an IT business relationship manager. So what that means now for me is I'm responsible for managing the relationship between IT and our insurance agents, who I mentioned earlier. So they're the people that sell all our insurance. So ultimately, I'm kind of a bit like a security guard between IT and agents. So if they have any issues or any concerns or any demand, they come through me and my team to kind of manage that into IT and ensure that everyone is generally kept happy. I love building relationships and kind of managing stakeholders. So I'm really lucky that I've loved all the jobs that I've done since coming off scheme. And it's been a great privilege. I think one really awesome thing for me as well is NFUM are always willing to support whatever your career ambitions are. Ultimately, if you want to be the next CEO, they'd probably support you do that. If you just want to do the best you can every day, I think they're totally game for that as well. For me, I've been more recently nominated to be part of an internal development program for our senior leaders. So I'm just about to start a year-long course, which is to get me ready for hopefully my next career move, which would be into our kind of executive layer, which is really cool. So I'm really looking forward to do that. So as much as you get tons of stuff thrown in to support you whilst you're kind of on scheme, it doesn't stop when you come off scheme, which is really important for me. I absolutely thrive on that kind of continued development side of stuff. So that's been really great, really. So that's sort of my overview of where I've been on scheme and then post scheme. And I guess now we'll move on to probably hints and tips. Is that all right, Olivia? We'll go on to
That's fantastic. So some hints, tips and advice for you. So my number one tip would be, honestly, just to be yourself through all stages of the process. We really want to get to know you as a person, not somebody that you think we want to see. It's really important. Make sure that you do your research about NFU Mutual and really understand why it is you want to work for us. So what is it about our company that's attractive to you? And also why the specific scheme that you're going for. So what do you think you could give to this scheme and learn from it that would benefit both you and the business? And then think about what makes you really stand out. What can you offer that other people might not be able to that would be attractive to us? And finally, from me, just make sure you're really inquisitive throughout the process and make sure that you're always asking questions. It's always good to show interest.
Yeah, agreed. I think I could probably provide a slightly different angle that I looked after the IT grads for quite a number of years when I was working for the IT director. So I've been kind of both in the application process, but also on the other side, seeing kind of the recruiter side. And yeah, everything Olivia said is super important. If you are lucky enough to get through to assessment centres, and that's for us or anybody else, is make sure you're heard and make sure you're involved and that you involve other people and you play an active part in your assessment centres and group exercises. But equally, don't be really gobby. But then equally, don't sit in the corner and be super quiet. So we absolutely, and certainly for NFUM, I can genuinely speak hand on heart, we absolutely are not there to catch you out. We really are desperate to find people, really great people that do want to work for us as much as we want you to work for us. So we're keen to see truly authentic you. That's what we want to see. So yeah, that's definitely my last little bit.
Brilliant. So thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone. Has anyone got any questions for us?
Hello. There have been some questions come through. There's been some quite specific ones that have been asked on the chat, but also some more overarching ones as well come through via our emails as well. So I'm going to ask both so that if anybody's asked a specific question on the chat and hasn't seen the answer, that probably would be relevant for more than one person to see. So let me just start off. Can you give more details about the culture and what you most like about it?
Sure. I think I possibly typed my little answer in there earlier. So I just put, for me, it's about how friendly we are and how supportive everybody is. So yeah, I am the queen of asking really stupid questions and nobody has ever made me feel stupid, which is great because I like to know why things tick and work. So I'm constantly going like, why does that happen? Or why are you doing this? And people will always spend time explaining it to me, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and I've really found over the past year, even where I've spent most of it working virtually, there's been such an effort by everyone to make you feel really, really included in the company, regular contact by all different teams, all different managers who really want to get to know you. When I joined the company, I had one of the HR managers go and drop a welcome gift off at my front door. It's that level of personal service and that face-to-face thing that we love in our company, and it's a really, really friendly, nice place to work.
Brilliant. Great. Right, then another question that came through. Are the costs for CPD covered?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Simple answer to a simple question. Okay, what is the NFUM attitude about flexible working / working from home? Obviously, the hybrid approach.
So we've recently introduced our informal home working policy. So when I joined the company last year, obviously, and through lockdown, it was all virtual as it had to be. We're a company that is very much a face-to-face company. So it is important to us to maintain those face-to-face relationships. So we have started going back with a hybrid approach, that they look at each role and assess whether the role is suitable to work from home. And if it is, then you're able to do a 50-50 split.
Okay.
So 50-50, yeah.
Brilliant. There was a question that I think I can link quite nicely from there. I made a note of it here. It was talking about if working remotely, how do I have support with the onboarding and continued support from my manager? I feel like I could feel quite alone.
Yeah.
Do you want to go, Olivia? You probably lived through most of it.
So I was a bit concerned about that when I started. So I started last September, right in the height of it all. So I can sympathise with that in terms of you don't quite feel exactly the same when you're at home as you do when you're in the office. But as I mentioned earlier, with the culture of the company, it is a really, really friendly company that really, really wants to make you feel involved. In terms of our meetings, we have a camera on policy. So you're always seeing people when you're talking to them. Everyone completely understands the challenges of working from home and is very, very open to letting you call them all the time or answer questions whenever you need it. I personally haven't found the training and onboarding side particularly difficult working remotely, because with tech these days you can screen share to show people things, you can give people calls at any time. I would agree slightly that you miss out on that little bit of the face-to-face stuff, but that's exactly why we're now going back 50-50, because we realise that it is still nice to have those authentic face-to-face relationships. But I wouldn't worry about it, because there's a lot of workarounds and there's a lot of ways that we've made it work.
Okay, brilliant. Jay says, I am from Ormskirk. Do you offer relocation packages?
It's probably one for Jane, but I'm going to say we don't. Don't think we do. The expectation is you're applying for a job, you kind of know where the site is. Obviously, given the informal home working policy, if you can make it work that you don't mind maybe a longer commute because you're at home for potentially a couple of days a week, then that works for you. To be fair, I would, when I'm commuting, do about an hour each way.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind that, because it's peace and quiet away from my child.
Okay, right. Stephen Bishop says, as a data science graduate, are there any opportunities to work in AI with NFUM currently, or are there any plans for this? Thank you.
So within I can speak from an IT perspective. So we're looking at AI within innovation. There isn't specifically an innovation scheme, but ultimately if you come into IT, you're kind of going to be surrounded by it. Also within our cyber team, we certainly use some levels of artificial intelligence equally with our suppliers. So that might be of interest. We're looking at it across the company. Equally, trying to think of which scheme it was that's on there that's not IT. I think pricing are also possibly looking at what AI can do to help us from a modelling perspective and all sorts of different stuff. So yeah, it's kind of everywhere. We deal with a lot of numbers in insurance, so it's very helpful for us to look at AI.
Okay, brilliant. I had a question specifically for Olivia, which was, what made you choose NFUM?
So a lot of things. So in terms of the company itself, when I sort of looked on the careers website and I saw how high our engagement was, that was a huge thing for me, because if a company is achieving world-class engagement, it must be doing something right. It must be a nice place to work, and I can definitely vouch for the fact it is. I like the fact it was a mutual company, so it's not driven entirely by profit. It's driven with its members' best interests at heart. So I get behind the morals of the company, and I like that. In terms of the scheme specifically for HR, it's a really, really good scheme in terms of how many different roles you get to do within the 3 years. So as I said, I've been here a year and I've already done 4 different roles, and I've got another 4 to come over the next 2 years, because my next placement will be a little bit longer. So as someone that knew I wanted to work in HR, but I wasn't quite sure which area, it's been a really great opportunity for me to try out different things. And I can already say there's 2 of the teams I've been in that I probably would apply for a role in afterwards, because I know I've enjoyed it. There are probably ones I don't enjoy as much, but that's the whole point. You're learning, you're developing yourself. And I think that was what was really attractive for me.
Okay. Right then. So I have a couple more that are aimed at you, Olivia. Let's have a look here. What have you learned most since graduating, working at NFUM?
Oh gosh, that's
no pressure.
That's a big question. What have I learned the most? I think I've learned, if we're talking about within the workplace, it's to just try and get involved wherever I can and ask as many different questions as I can. Because I think, especially joining a company working from virtually, sometimes I felt a little bit annoying initially messaging people or asking people. And I think as the years gone on, I've realised how much more you get out of it if you are inquisitive, if you do ask questions, if you do try and get involved, and how much people don't mind. People are really happy to. I always know if someone comes to me for help, I never mind. And I think I've realised that's the attitude of everyone else in the company. It's a really helpful company. It's a really nice really nice culture, nice people, and to ask as many questions and get as much out of it as you can is the most important thing I think I've learned.
Marvellous. And Olivia, again for you, what have you found to be the biggest challenge? I would actually personally, I think this is a great question to ask from a professional and a personal perspective as well, actually.
Yeah. So I think one of the challenges, biggest, I've got two. So one of them would have been the working from home part. So trying to start a job completely remotely was a challenge. As I said, there were lots of different ways that the company got around it and made it as easy as possible. But it was challenging to know that you don't actually have those more sort of informal chats with the people that you sit with and you work with. And I think it was just, I kind of was able to overcome that by just making every effort where I could to engage in different conversations with people and try and make an effort to, in different teams I've been in, quite often we have, just an informal chat once or twice a week in the diary, and always making an effort to join that to try and get to know people. As soon as the ability to go back to the office a little bit came in, I did that. I was going in a couple of times a week for quite a while now, even before it became a sort of mandatory policy. So that was a big thing for me, just trying where I could to do everything to get to feel as involved as I could at a time when you were a bit more disconnected. And then I guess another challenge that I found a little bit with a rotational scheme is you are moving a lot. So you kind of get stuck in a role and you move quite quickly. But then it's one of those challenges that's also a real positive because you're learning a lot, and it's just trying to understand what you can take on in each rotation. So if you go in for a 3-month placement, don't take on a project that's going to take a year to complete. It's learning, being realistic about your timeframes, your ability to deal with things. And my second and third placement were a joint one, so the reward and engagement were joint, and it was just about learning my time management and how I can liaise with 2 different managers to make it all work. But it's a constant learning curve, and you get challenges throughout, but you just find ways of working it out.
Yeah, all part of the growth process, I guess.
Definitely.
This question was answered within the chat, but I do think it would be quite helpful for you to kind of talk to the wider audience about it. How long is the recruitment process from start to finish? And this person in particular was keen to start as soon as possible, but I think that's quite an interesting question in terms of from application, what can people expect in terms of timeframes from assessment centres to interview and so on.
So right now our schemes are open. I'm pretty sure in saying that, Jane might correct me, who is also on the line from NFUM, but we're open now and they all close, I believe, at the end of the month. So we're talking within the next couple of weeks. That's right, isn't it, Jane?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're open until October the 31st. Assessment centres are late November and December, and interviews would be in January, and with a start date of September 2022 is the time frame. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and Jane, it would be really helpful, I think, actually, because there's another question that was asked around how to really make an impression during application, assessment and interview. I think this is obviously a question for all, but it's great that you've joined us for this.
Yeah.
With it being, I would imagine, quite competitive, what can people do? What are the do's and the don'ts, really, of standing out within the whole process?
I think the girls have touched on it, but basically, obviously, we have like a CV sift, and I watch all the video interviews, and I just think it sounds really cheesy, but it's just be yourself. You can tell, like, with the video interviews, you have an 1 minute 30 seconds prep per question. The questions we ask are all based. There's nothing technical in them, no matter what scheme. They're based around you, and it is just be yourself. You can have somebody on question 1 who's quite nervous, and as you watch, they become more confident throughout. So, I mean, the graduate scheme is almost like for raw talent, I'd say. So we're not expecting them to be like the finished article. The course is obviously, like Olivia and Charlotte have talked through. We go on a presentation skills course. We go on sorry, I've got my words out. We go on one called about I've forgotten the name is.
There's effective influencing.
Thank you, that's the one. It was on the edge of my tongue. You go on those courses, so you don't have to be the like polished article, but it's basically just being yourself. That's all I can say. You guys you've been on the centres, obviously you've been through it, and I just think just be yourself.
Yeah. And I think, as Charlotte said, it's about really getting involved in the assessment centre, in your group tasks, be an active part, don't take over, don't sit quietly, be an active part and speak up, but also make sure you're involving everyone else.
Yeah.
Want to strike that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
That line. Okay.
Yeah, and then in interview, if you get through to that stage, we ultimately are going to ask you like scenario questions. So could you tell us about a time that you've led other people? Like my examples when I was on the grad scheme were like my job at Sainsbury's when I was like a checkout person. So I use that example, scored full marks on that, obviously. And then like a couple of other ones, literally, because I think it was like one was a uni project and another one, like we don't expect you to have really kind of like work examples because you're most likely coming fresh from uni. So just use examples of stuff that you've got. And I think people will be pleasantly surprised by how much they can pull on in life. Like if you do clubs outside of kind of uni or whatever, where you might have like led a team, a sports team, like anything, it really doesn't matter what kind of the example is. We're just looking for somebody to be natural, to be authentic, and just, answer the question that we ask, like, when have you led a team? Talk us through what you did, like how you listened to others, all of that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, you've got to kind of think, would you want to employ me as somebody? Like, would I want to work with me? If the answer is yes, we'd probably also want to work with you. So it really is just, trying to be as relaxed as you can, which I know is way easier said than done when you're being interviewed for something, because I still get massively nervous even now.
I think it's natural if you're passionate about something.
Absolutely.
Then it's a natural reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've kind of covered what I was going to ask next, which was what experience can I give myself to have a competitive edge ahead of applying with you. So you have already said, really, if you've done, sports teams or so on, or you've drawn on your experience with Sainsbury's. But is there any other kind of examples where people can really, if they've got, working for you in the future in mind, anything that they can arm themselves with to really, give themselves that competitive edge?
Research, I was going to say, this is research on the company. So a great one to obviously research. I'd say the company as much as you can, and also about what scheme you're applying for as well. So that will stand you in good stead.
Yeah, we'll ask you those questions, won't we? Why are you applying? If you go like, I really like HR, it's like, that's fantastic. But why do you like HR? Just expand a little bit. Try and go to that like next level. That'll stand you out from other people ultimately.
And when watching and the video interviews and watching them, I'm not going to say all the questions, but it's good on the ones where it's about you, about your values, yourself, to give an example of to demonstrate them. So that's always makes the application a little bit stronger. An example within what does such and such look like to you is in, and then say how it is, and then give an example of when you delivered that or when you felt that. Try not to say too much. I don't want to give the questions away.
I guess it's kind of the behaviours we look for, isn't it? At NFU, really, kind of like leadership, kind of inclusion of others and bringing people along. All of those kind of probably just general things you'd expect you need at work. They're the kind of questions that we'll ask. So if you've got an example of where you've maybe like delivered something or led a project, and when I say project, it literally could be led a sports team, like did a uni project, whatever it might be. Maybe an area where you've like improved something. If you've got an example of some minor improvement that you've done somewhere. It's just, there's some things I think we'll probably ask for it at some point, whether that's assessment centre interview early. It's just having those in your back pocket to say, oh yeah, I can give you an example of a time when I did that and this is how I did it.
Yeah, I think it's as well just demonstrating certain characteristics and certain traits that we have in our personal style, which, as I say, you can Google, it has all our competencies. But I was saying, I had a bit of work experience before I came in here, but in terms of the examples I gave, I didn't actually draw too much upon that. I drew a lot more on like extracurricular stuff. So when I was at university, I was in something called the Officer Training Corps, which was essentially like a leadership Army Reserve training unit. And I drew upon way more examples of that when I was coming in my examples, because a lot of the questions were a bit more about sort of character stuff and traits, which you can often get from things like that, or as Charlotte said, leading a sports team or university projects, then you have to get from specific work.
Yeah. Brilliant. Great answers, guys. Right, then Tanya asked, and you did answer half of this question during the session, but I don't think there's any harm in repeating it for anybody that has been a little bit late to the presentation. How many grads are recruited each year, and are grads guaranteed a job at the end of the scheme?
It's dependent on the business. So this year we're recruiting 26 for the 2022 intake. For the 2021 intake, you've just started, there was 21. So I'd say the ballpark is usually around 20, I'd say, 20 a year, but it just depends on all areas of the business. As for when we take on graduates, it's a permanent role to start with. It's a permanent role, and what we'd say about the graduate scheme is like it's two-way partnership. You don't come into a department and just be told what to do. There's conversations that go on, and you can lean towards your strengths or what you're good at and where they need resource. It's a two-way partnership. Would you say that, Charlotte, how it works? Obviously, you've managed an IT scheme.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we want to ultimately, if you're really bad at your job, you probably wouldn't want to stay here anyway, just because you should only ever do a job that you're really enjoying. Otherwise, go find something else, because it is not fun to stay in a job that you don't enjoy. But by enjoying your job, you're probably going to be doing a really good job. So therefore, we want to keep you. So we want to find you a role that you're going to enjoy and continue doing. So yeah, absolutely. I certainly, when I was looking after the IT grads, I had no intention of letting anybody go. Like Jane said, you do have a permanent contract, and we want to just make sure that we kind of retain you in the position that you're going to do really well in.
Mm-hmm. Talking about recruitment again, I know that you did speak about this before, but Jack says he has a 2-1. Is that can he apply with that basically?
Yeah, of course he can. So the a 2-2 is across the board for schemes such as HR, customer service, sales, and business management. The 2-1 is for finance, pricing. So that's he's got almost like what the criteria he's got is absolutely fine. We do take on people with 2-2s and 2-1s. There's just the higher 2-1 is required for pricing, audit, and finance, more the accountancy type roles.
Brilliant.
So yeah, please do apply.
Yeah, he sounds like a good one. We have got Killian, who says, hi all, do grads go straight into, or are they fast tracked into a management role after the scheme finishes? Oh, you've kind of answered that anyway. Or is it level playing field with the other employers at the business?
Depends what he means by management. So there's like tons of layers. So you could be a team manager, so you could manage people. We've got obviously our like senior exec kind of CEO level, probably not heading straight there after the grad scheme, mind. But yeah, I think for me, I moved into, so we have probably similar to very other companies, like kind of job levels and job grades. So there's different ones of those throughout the company. So I was lucky to move up a level when I came off scheme. There's no guarantee of that. Again, it's kind of what interests you and what roles are around. But in the nice plus way, level shouldn't really matter. It's kind of about what you want to do as a job and what you enjoy. If kind of promotion and level or management of people or management of a project, whatever it is you want to do is what you're after, well, yeah, go for it. There's nothing stopping you doing that. I think it's very much about what the business has got on at that point in time.
Okay, brilliant. Another question came in. How do you see the business developing and changing over the next 5 years? And will the demand for graduates continue to be the same?
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
So I guess the business is developing, and a big kickstart for that really was COVID. So we're a company that's very, very face-to-face, and I think the transition to the more virtual world is kind of speeding things up a little bit in terms of ways of working and digitalization and things like that. So that's a really big one that's changing for us. I think in terms of the graduates, as far as I'm aware, I don't know if you've got anything to say about it, Jayla, there's been a fairly consistent need over the years. I can't see it changing.
And it hasn't dropped during COVID, has it? Which obviously that's one thing for the NFU Mutual. We've noticed other employers put positions on hold, and we just continue throughout it. And yeah, and a year on from COVID, we're recruiting. Well, we've 15 vacancies this time. So I think we've got 7 schemes. Yeah, we've got more schemes than ever. The data scientist is a new role. I'm trying to think which audit new. It's one of the newer ones, but every year it seems to be going broader across the business. So I can't see it. I can't see it at all. And it's been going, I think it's 11 years now. And Charlotte, you obviously on one of the very early schemes, and all it's done is grown.
Yeah, there was only 2 schemes then, or 3. I think there was marketing, HR, I think they called it corporate scheme at the time, and the IT scheme. And there was like a CS scheme. There was literally less than a handful of schemes. So to see it grow to so many different options now. IT used to be one scheme. We've now got, depending what year, varying different ones going on at the same time. Yeah, from a company perspective as well, we're investing over £100 million a year in change and change projects. So we're not slowing down anytime soon. We've continued to do kind of an incredible amount of business, even kind of given COVID and Brexit and everything else that's gone on. So as a company, we're thriving. So I think, that can only bode well for the grads going forward ultimately.
So it's very much future-proof then. It's an organisation for...
If we go down, something seriously has gone wrong. I'll bet money on that.
We're quite risk adverse, aren't we? And also the mutuality point of it and everything, the overall, can't see it now.
Brilliant. There was a question towards the beginning of the presentation when you mentioned resilience training as one of the parts of the grad training that you do. Can you elaborate on what that is, what it does, and what an individual will get out of that?
Yeah, so the training's really, really good. It's essentially, so I did it about a year ago now, because it's trying to remember everything, but it's essentially really looking at things that you perceive to be failures and making you more positive about them. So I remember having to go with an example of a recent situation which was a fail, and you sort of learn skills and ways of thinking and ways of dealing with it. And then by the end of the training course, you kind of look back at that situation and you don't really see it as a fail anymore. You see it as a learning or a success in its own right. It's just teaching you skills and things to think about, which really help you not to dwell necessarily on the bad things and how to bounce back and how to focus and stay focused on the good things. That's, I think, what I primarily got from that training, and it was really, really useful, and it's run by some really good trainers.
Brilliant. Colin Fell says, hello, I'm a second year at uni at the moment, but I'd really like the sound of your schemes. Is there anywhere I can register my interest for the 2023 intake?
If I'm totally honest, I don't think there is at the moment, to be fair. I know we have a speculative advert on our careers website. You can register interest, but I'm not convinced that far in advance how effective that would be. The best advice I can say is every year we're out live in September. So obviously next September we'll be going live with the 2023 intake. So and we'll be going to careers fairs. I'm no doubt we'll be doing the National Graduate Week again as well. But I don't want to suggest doing something and sign up to a speculative advert and nothing move forward with it. So my best suggestion would be to come back this time next year and please apply.
Okay.
If that's okay, Colin.
Just mark it in your diary, Colin. Sarah's just asked a question. I can answer this one. I feel like a professional now myself. She said, are there plans to offer your grad opportunities in other locations? I'm in Leeds. Sarah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we were just talking about the fact that it is very much in the head office. There's remote working. So if you're happy to commute from Leeds, for example, however many times a week or month that would be, then that's an opportunity, isn't it? But is there anything else that you'd like to elaborate on that, guys?
Well, it depends which scheme you're applying for, because if you're applying for one of the sales and agency ones up north, you're not based in Stratford-upon-Avon. So whilst the head office is in Stratford-upon-Avon, and that is for your things like your IT, your HR, your customer services, IT. I said IT already, but the sales and agency are field-based, so they're in different parts of the country.
Yes, it's divvied up. I think Olivia said earlier, kind of northeast would probably be Leeds. I'm trying to think where Leeds would fall into, probably northeast or northwest, or it might just skirt the top of Midlands. But and we have an office in York as well as one of our regional service centres. So you may end up based out of there for a little bit. But that's the one that if you were kind of desperate to stay up that way somewhere, that you're probably best in, it's of interest to you to go for the sales and agency scheme. Okay,
brilliant. We've got about 15 minutes to go, guys. I've got a couple more questions to ask. I would encourage anybody else on the chat to either send your message on the chat or email us at info@careermap.co.uk. I'm going to ask a few more questions and then probably start to wrap up, unless anybody's got anything else that they want to add in. But I will just crack on with the questions for now. What is the style of working in the office post-COVID, i.e., restrictions or precautions and so on?
So, sorry, Charlotte.
No, go on, Olivia. It's fine. You're in the office now, so you can explain.
So, in terms of style of working, we've got our desks are all at a reasonable level apart. We're not right up next to people. There's a good metre or so between everyone, and there's masks are expected when you're not at your desk. So walking around, but because of our hybrid ways of working, where it's 50%, it's not at full capacity most days anyway. So there's no one sat next to me at the moment, and yeah, it's just masks when you're up, when you get up from your desks, and then the desks are all cleaned every night, things like that. So it's a pretty COVID safe space, as safe as it can be.
Brilliant. Anything else on that one, or shall I go to the next, which is, I graduated 4 years ago, can I still apply?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Yeah, we've had I can think of the IT scheme. We've had people on career change people.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
We're literally open for anybody. That's across any schemes at all. If you're decent enough, we'll have you, whatever your age.
Oh, is that so? That's true then. So you
pretty much. Why would you exclude people that want to try and do something a bit different with their life? I remember interviewing a guy that was 56 a couple of years ago, and he was great. In the end, he decided he I think got quite a number of opportunities at the same time, and just at that point decided to go somewhere else. But yeah, he was really good, and he just decided, I think he'd been a postman or something like that, and suddenly decided he'd taken himself back to uni, got a degree, and then applied. So as long as you've got a degree, go for it. We'd love to hear from anyone if you're good enough.
Wonderful. I think you would have mentioned this, but I'll ask anyway. Do you do internships? And if so, if I did one, does it make it easier to get onto the grad scheme?
I'd love the answer to be yes, we do. But unfortunately, pre-COVID, we were running a scheme. We were going to run an intern scheme that summer, which would have been 2020, as a first like a trial one. But that has been put on hold. But it's something that constantly comes up. Interns, insight days, and it is. I think the IT are actually looking at something, if I'm right, at the moment. But it's not anything on paper yet. So
yeah, I think we're really mindful. I don't know if you did, Olivia. I did an industrial placement year whilst at uni, so my third year was in industry, and I think it's a great opportunity. So why wouldn't we offer that? So yeah, I think it's something on the agenda for the future, but just not yet.
Brilliant. Okay, guys. Well, there's about 10 minutes to go. I've covered nearly all of the questions that came through. I don't think there's anything else that we have left, any stone left unturned. So what I would like to just do is hand over to you guys and just encourage you to give a bit of a closing statement around, your own experience and your thoughts and why people, in your kind of ideas should be applying. And yeah, I think that'd be a really lovely way to kind of wrap up the session today.
Who would like to start?
I don't mind going first. So I think for me, I'd really encourage you to apply if you want to work for a really great company that has a really lovely culture and will give you a graduate scheme that has fantastic development opportunities. It will let you see a wide different range of different departments and different roles in the business. It will give you a lot of training, professional qualifications, and you'll come out at the end of it with really good employability.
Brilliant.
Yeah, what Olivia said, it's really hard to say anything else, really. We're a lovely company to work for. Personally, I wouldn't still be here if we weren't. And I think, for me, I feel like I need continual development and kind of opportunities. And NFU Mutual has been able to provide that both on scheme and off scheme. I think there was a question earlier, which I clocked, and someone was asking about, how supported do you feel during the scheme? I think for me, I assume it's still the same, Olivia and Jane, that there's so many different methods of support whilst on scheme. You've got kind of your peer group of grads who are in exactly the same boat as you. So you've got tons of kind of stuff to share there. You have your line manager for your actual kind of role that you're in at the time. You generally will have somebody that probably looks after the scheme in your own business area that also cares about you. And then you've got Jane and all of her team that kind of care about you from a grad perspective, and you're on the exec radar as well, so they know who you are. Like, there's so many different methods and kind of mechanisms to support you while you're here. That, yeah, I think just that is what keeps our grads here. And we have really quite high retention rates for a number of years after the scheme as well. We certainly haven't lost many from IT. So yeah, they're all still here, and they're all now doing like fantastically well in their kind of jobs after scheme as well. So yeah, scheme is a way in. It's a really good way in. Like Olivia said, it makes you super marketable as an individual. Hopefully you then want to stay.
And Charlotte, when you joined, because you were brought in on a scheme 9 years ago,
yeah,
how did you envisage your journey panning out? Did you think, or was it your goal to be here 9 years later, or has it just been a kind of a happy, progression and a continued learning and development journey where you've ended up here? Yeah,
probably the latter. So if I compare myself to my peers and kind of just my friends that are down at big corporates in London, they're probably on about, a lot of them, their fourth or fifth company since leaving kind of uni nearly 10 years ago. I'm probably one of the only ones that's still at the same place. And that's not from lack of ambition at all. Jane can probably attest to how ambitious I am, but just having those opportunities still here. That's why I'm still here. And that absolutely has been, if you want to make something of yourself, the Mutual is there to kind of help support that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And my parting statement would be apply. We're open till the 31st of October. So yeah, please put your applications forward.
Yeah, if you apply for the grad scheme, I'll see you there. Because I like to an interview
on the assessment centres.
Sounds like a threat.
I'll try and be really nice. No, honestly, we're so lovely. And you know what? We've had that feedback so many times from Olivia. I don't know how you found the assessment centre that you did, but we've had some really lovely feedback from grads, even ones that didn't get through, to be like, your assessment centre was so nice in comparison to some others that I did. God, I remember doing one for a company that shall remain nameless when I was applying for schemes, and I got chopped after like 2 hours in the morning, and I was like, oh God. It was done in front of everyone. It was so embarrassing. But yeah, that's not our style at all. So
yeah. I completely agree. It was really, really friendly. Really, really friendly. I did another one as well where we were all referred to as numbers rather than names, and nothing like that. Very personal, very, very nice, and very friendly. And it really gave me really good impression of the company. And to be honest, the assessment centre and the final interview were really what made me choose to come to NFU Mutual. It was got such a nice vibe from them that yeah.
I think that's the thing as well. It is in many senses a two-way street. Obviously, you are conducting the interviews and so on, but the individual feeling of somebody who is applying with you, you get a feeling, don't you? And I think that just sounds like a lovely experience and a positive one. So brilliant. Have you got any links that you would like me to share in the chat now, just to the live vacancies?
Yeah, I'll do it now if you would like. That helps. I'll link them in onto our career page. I'll put the links into the graduate vacancies, and there's a link to About Us as well, so that gives you more information. So is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Just pop it in the chat.
Perfect.
There's still 651 people in the room, but there's no questions that have come in these last 10 minutes. So I really do think that we've pretty much covered everything. If something hasn't been covered though, email the info@careermap.co.uk address. We can put it back through the team. Hopefully Jane will stick these links in now. If not, you will get a recording of this available on the National Graduate Week website in a week or so, where we'll be able to basically rehost the recording. But if there's nothing that pops up in the chat now, can Olivia and Charlotte, can you just guide? Oh, she's done it. nfumutual.co.uk/find-job/search our jobs. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and that will be on your profile on National Graduate Week website as well. So I think it's my opportunity to thank you, to thank everybody from NFU Mutual today for hosting such a brilliant and informative and concise and passionate presentation. All of the questions that have come through, I'm really glad that we've managed to kind of rattle through them all. Like I say, if there's anything that's been missing, please get in contact with us. Hopefully information can be found on the link that Jane's just popped in there. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Thank you to the audience here. It's my time to say goodbye. I'll just pass over to you for your final goodbye.
No, thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Yeah, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.